Hello and welcome to Hops and Bros. This week,
We're some sort of speaking of grains.
For an open window on a crafty world, Max and Chris from Ups and Brews. Ups and Brews. Welcome to Ups and Brews.
Alright, so this week we're looking at spelt, which is a specialty, kind of adjunct-y, weird grain that some people use. A little bit like rye. Did we do an episode on rye before?
No, we haven't.
I feel like rye
Not
should have
yet.
been first and spelt second, because spelt is not used a lot in brewing. But anyways,
Hey, we got the request.
Yeah, do you know-
we got the
do you
request
know
on
exactly
our
what you
last video.
requested?
Let me check that out really quick because we always do the shout out at the same time. That's the way we do things in Ops and Bros. It's Dane Glenn Williams,
Nice.
who has a fantastic avatar of Cowbell Brewing Company.
Ooh.
So cheers, Dave. Dane, sorry. This one's for you. Wow, we're off to a good start.
Yes, we always are. So, Chris, what is spelt? Where does it come from? Why do we use it? Where will we go, Cotton Eye Joe?
So Max, we're going probably the furthest we've ever been back in history on Ops and Bros.
Furthest.
We're talking, the furthest we've ever been back in time. 5000 BC. That's far. That's very far. So this is where spelt was kind of like the first archaeological research were made about the usage of spelt were back in those years. So spelt, just to save you a little bit of the whole science thing, is a result from natural evolution, which sorts itself from two wheat varieties. We're talking about tetraploid wheat and emmer wheat, which, if you go a little bit into the history of wheat in general, the bread wheat that we know today is at the source of spelt in one way. So it's some sort of a weird family reunion when we talk about cereals in that part. But spelt, our ancestors used it widely. We're speaking more in Germany, Switzerland, France. So most northern parts of the of Europe in general were using spelt. But if we take a look back, Max said it's somewhat of an old grain that no one uses it. The biggest crop years for spelt were back in the sixth century. That's still very far away from where we are now. But we're currently seeing a lot more of it popping up because of its, of course, of the organic farming that we see striving in the industry, but also the fact that it's a little bit stronger than the wheat we have, and it requires less fertilizer, which, if you do organic farmer, it's a good thing because you use less of crap to do better crops. From crap to crops. That's cool.
Hey, to touch on your historical point,
Yep.
a brewery is basically a cow. And I'll explain why I mean this right now. Humans cannot digest grain just like that. We gotta process it. Now, back in the beginning of humanity, where the Mesopotamia is where we think beer is from, where we think that humanity kind of settled for a little longer. They also started to they started to harvest grass. And they started to harvest some sort of grass and replanting that one until we had barley, wheat, spelt, rye, all those different grains that later on were used in brewing. But on its own, we can't process it. We have to change it. We have to make bread with it. We have to make beer with it. We have to have some sort of process behind it. Cows, they don't need that. They just eat grass, and then they have 4 different stomachs that are going to help process that grain a lot more efficiently. So, brewery is like a cow. In the beginning of time, we did use a lot of different grains to brew our beer. Spelt was most likely one of them. Rye was another one. Wheat was another one. With time, we kind of perfected some grain for beer and some not. Spelt does not have a husk, which means that it is not an ideal grain to brew with, which is why it was kind of put on the side for a lot of years. It does add a lot of spicy tones to beer. It's somewhere between barley and wheat when it comes to flavor, which is kind of nice. Rye has a very spicy note. Spelt a little less, but it does add some complexity to your beer, which is kind of cool. Where was I going with this? I don't like working with spelt because then it's have a husk. You have to add something to help filter that mash, filter that wort, because if not, it's a hassle. Stuck mash is not so great. And for the plus benefit, it's not really there. I don't know if I had anything about spelt. Spelt is one of those weird grains. Oh yeah, let's talk about the Rheinheskabat real quick. The reason why barley is known for beer and not spelt, not wheat, not rye, is because of the Rheinheskabat. They wanted to avoid famine in their cities, so they split the grains up. They said barley has husk. It is very hard to make bread with. Not very, it is harder. Let's give it to beer. Beer is going to be barley from now on. Now, wheat, very easy to manipulate when you want to make flour, when you want to make bread. Wheat is going to be for bread from now on. And that's how they avoided famine in their cities, by separating the grains into different categories so that brewers wouldn't go get wheat and then there's no more wheat to make bread. Same thing with bread makers, wouldn't get a bunch of barley and then there would not be any more barley for water, because back then water was poison too. People would, do whatever in that water. You had to filter it, you had to boil it, you had to process it to be able to consume it. So that's what I got on spelt, man. Spelt is one of those, kind of falls in the crack, because if you want to make a spicy beer, generally you're going to go with rye. And rye, you'll have the same problem. You'll have the huskless problem. But if you want to make a more traditional Belgian beer, you're going to go with wheat, because wheat is fun to work with. Spalt is a very, very specific malt.
But you're speaking of husks surrounding the cereals. Is it a process that, it's from the process of transforming it into a malted?
No, not necessarily, because there is There is malted wheat, but malted wheat doesn't have a big enough husk to be anything good in the mash. I mean, it is going to help a bit compared to using flake, because flake is going to create very much of a mush in your mash. So if you have malted spelt, it'd be not so bad, but it wouldn't be great. Barley is the ultimate grain for that. Husk to sugar content, to be able to grow it anywhere as well. Spelt. It's a hell of a grain.
I think it's a crazy grain. Maybe we'll see more of it since there's some sort of
I doubt it.
Organic farming renaissance. But again, who knows?
See, that's the thing with organic farms is, it's all good and great. You still spend a lot of time and energy to try to keep those plants alive, and you have a lower yield than if you would not go organic. And very few breweries decide to go organic, so you're not really catering to any of those specifically. And what was my last point on organic farming and spelt in general? I don't know. I had something to say. I forgot. But anyways, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think your return on investment is really much there. It's a very niche market.
We have a market that's fastly growing and changing. Maybe?
We'll see.
I'm trying to spice up some positivity since I did a lot of negativity in the 2 videos ago, and you got me on a positive note instead. So I'm doing a positive note on your negativity this time.
Well, it's not negativity.
Coming back at you.
It is what it is. It's fine. There's wheat.
It's a long lost grain that.
Anyways, if you liked the video, please leave a like, subscribe, share, and let us know in the comments below which subject you'd like to see next. As you can see in this video, it actually works. We do listen to you.
We do listen every single time. Oh, and if you want to make sure to not miss this video, ring the bell. We're trying this on this video. I don't want to say that every video because it's very annoying, but from my stats on YouTube, you guys don't do it, so do it.